Hey guys, James from SIKKY Manufacturing. On this episode of the LS E30 turnkey build, we're going to install the wiring harness, wrap up the cooling system, and get the oil filter relocation bracket and oil filter installed. Alright, so this is the finished pre-production version of our radiator kit for the E30 LS swap. As you can see, it's now dual pass. So we've got both inlet and outlet on this side with so the coolant comes in, flows through, it goes back across. We're going to have steam fitting port for the overflow. It's got a drain on it, and it hooks up just like a factory radiator, so it drops in. It'll be real easy. And it'll basically come with a fan setup. So just trying to make this real simple for everybody that's doing the swap and make it drop in, bolt in easy, and solve that problem entirely with plenty of cooling capacity for the LS engine. So let's get this thing put in the car. Alright, so as you can see, it utilizes the factory rubber positioning pieces that sit in the actual parts on the frame rail that are designed to accept the radiator. So we're going to set this down in here carefully and align those, make sure it's pushed all the way down. And you gotta kind of work it back and forth a little bit because it does need to fully seat itself inside those cups. As you can see, we already have silicone radiator hoses. These are also pre-production, but we'll be making a radiator hose setup. So again, to make this whole installation extremely easy, designed to fit the LS1, LS2 water pump outlets. Obviously LS3 has a different outlet for this top hose, which would be over here, so that'll probably be a little further down the line, but obviously people are using LS3s a lot for swaps these days, so we'll end up making one for that as well. But slide this radiator hose on here just to get it in position, and then we can take the factory radiator bracket and install this. Use the factory hardware to bolt it back in position. And this, combined with the lower mounts, completely secures the radiator in place. To make it a little easier to get this lower hose on, you can take the thermostat housing neck off, and then we can actually install the radiator hose on that and then line the bolts back up because it's a real tight 90. Alright, so we're going to get the cooling fans installed on this car now. You can set them up to either be push or pull. If you're running an AC system on the car and you have a condenser in there, you're going to still need to run on the pull side, which would be the back side of the radiator. But we're going to run pull. We got two 13-inch fans, which should produce enough CFM to keep this radiator as cool as it needs to be. Alright, so we got both fans secured, so the radiator is pretty much done at this point, except for a couple other small items, but we're going to move on to getting the heater core hoses hooked up and the overflow pressure cap side of the system, so we'll do that next. Alright, so like last episode I explained that we were working on some really tight 90s, specifically for these tight firewall bends we got right back here behind the driver's side cylinder head. So these two in combination with these 90s will get us up and out from behind the heads and allow us to run along the back of the firewall here and then down to the two ports on the back side of the water pump. It's a tight fit. It's not an easy thing to get these squeezed in here. If you're watching this video before you do the install, I'd highly recommend putting these on before the engine goes in to save you a lot of fighting with them. But as you can see, there's not a ton of room in here. That's why we had to design something that was tighter 90 than we could find anywhere out there. That's the exact right size for these heater core hoses on the E30. We're going to get to putting these in and hopefully not do too much cussing. Hold on. Alright, so now we got them in there. We want to take the 90s that we provide with the heater hose kit and install them. It's helpful to put a little bit of grease on them. Press down in there real easy. And now we're ready to hook up our 5/8 lines that are going to run around to the water pump. Alright, so now we're going to connect 5/8 line. Alright, so since we're using the factory overflow and reservoir from the BMW E30 in this particular swap, we're going to tee this in on the front or the return line. It's going to get run over to the large hose connection on the E30 reservoir overflow. Alright, so now we're going to hook up the steam vent from the LS cylinder head and tee that into the reservoir. Be sure not to over tighten the clamps on the plastic connectors, that you can crush them. Use zip ties and loop clamps to secure the lines out of the way and make sure they're not hitting anything that'll cut through them or melt them. Alright, so then since this customer is not using AC on their car, we're going to use the SIKKY oil filter relocation bracket to conveniently mount this filter down out of the way where it's easy accessible when it's time to do an oil change. So we're going to bolt this in place where it goes right where the AC compressor used to be. We have a complete install guide of putting this relocation bracket onto the LS motor on the YouTube channel, so just go check it out if you want to see how to actually install this completely step by step. When you're installing the lines from the oil pan, you go out from the oil pan to in on the filter, out from the filter to in on the pan. Don't want to reverse that because you'll have major oil pressure issues if you do that. So again, out from the oil pan into the oil filter adapter, out from the oil filter adapter and into the pan. They're marked on each, so just make sure you do it the right way. Once you get them finger tight, you usually go about a quarter turn. You don't need to really torque the hell out of these things, so just make sure you get them finger tight and then about a quarter turn. Alright, one step closer to having this car all wrapped up and ready to rock. A few things to do on the wiring harness still, but for the most part we're just about done on that. Going to hopefully knock out the exhaust system and some of the other components on the next episode. Subscribe, click on the bell, don't forget to tune in next time.